The gentleman from the 13th District, Representative Manweller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I respect the comments of the previous speaker, and I don't know if the Washington State Legislature is a place that is appropriate or even interested in having a debate on the merits of the Citizens United decision. And the good gentleman from the 38th and I had a good debate about this in committee, and I don't think there's any need to repeat it. But I do think that there are a few points worth mentioning before we kind of follow this based on what has been generally a media-driven explanation of a very, very long and complicated Supreme Court decision. And as somebody who's had the joy of reading all 170-something pages of it, it's not a simple decision. But it does distill down into two core concepts which I think bear mentioning. It said two things. One, you cannot discriminate or limit speech simply based on who is doing the speaking. You can limit speech if you're engaged in a fighting word. You can limit speech on a time, a place, and a manner. You can limit speech if there's a clear and present danger, but you cannot limit speech based on who is doing the speaking. That was the holding of Citizens United. And the second holding was you can regulate money. You can regulate speech. You can't ban it. A ban is not a regulation. To narrow, to limit, to offer sideboards, yes. But to say you may not talk is not acceptable under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. Those were the two holdings of the Citizens United. So we should think long and hard before we send this resolution off to the United States Congress. Let me give you a few examples. Where did this case get its name? Citizens United. Do you know what they are? They were a 3-person corporation who did what? They made a documentary. They made a documentary. Nothing more American than that. Because you know why? They had something to say. Nothing more American than that. They had something to say that was political. And the state came in and said, you can't say that. And you know why you can't say that? Have you caused a fighting word? Nope. Have you said it in an inappropriate way? Nope. You've said it within 60 days of an election, and we don't want you to talk about politics 60 days before an election. Are you kidding me? That's the one you most want to talk about politics. Mr. Speaker, here's another example. If under the law which Citizens United overturned, Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 9/11, which was highly critical of President Bush and produced by a corporation, would have been banned because that movie ran within 60 days of an election. Do we want to live in a country where the state can say you may not speak because of who the speaker is? And I will also point out the fact, Mr. Speaker, that it said you may not discriminate against the speaker even if that speaker is a union. So I hope my friends on the other side of the aisle can join me in a strong defense of union and labor rights and reject this resolution. And finally, I'll tell you the most scary part of all this, Mr. Speaker. When this case was argued in front of the Supreme Court, the Solicitor General, that's our attorney, the American people's attorney, was asked a question. Does the government have the right under this law to ban a book if that book is available within 60 days of an election? And you know what she said? Yes. The Solicitor General of the United States, who's the people's attorney, whose sole job is to defend the First Amendment of the Constitution, said, yes, Mr. Speaker, the government can ban a book if it so chooses. And the Supreme Court said, that is a bridge too far. You cannot tell us that we can't speak at all. And you can't tell us that you get rights based on whether or not you get to speak or not, based on who you are. So I know it's a feel-good resolution to be against money and to be against, campaign, to be for campaign finance reform. But cast this vote in an educated manner is my suggestion. I'm not saying you have to go read the whole 170 pages. It's not exciting stuff. But at least pause before you stick your finger out there and hit that button. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.